First contact and looming threat. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UAS Horizon, Earth's most advanced starship, as it cruised through the inky void of space. The ship's sleek, obsidian hull gleamed faintly in the light of distant stars, its revolutionary quantum drive humming almost imperceptibly beneath her feet. Status report, Elena called out, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding her command chair. Lieutenant Commander Aiden Chen, her XO, responded promptly. All systems nominal, Captain. We're maintaining course for the Proxima Centauri colony. ETA is 72 hours at current speed. Elena nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. The Horizon was humanity's crowning achievement, a testament to their rapid technological advancement since achieving faster-than-light travel just 2 decades ago. As she gazed out at the star-speckled expanse before them, Elena felt a swell of pride. Humanity had come so far in such a short time, and now they were taking their first real steps into the galactic community. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Unidentified object dropping out of FTL, dead ahead, shouted the sensor officer, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka. Elena's posture stiffened. Battle stations, shields up, weapons on standby. Let's not assume hostility, but be prepared for anything. The crew sprang into action with practiced efficiency. As the unknown vessel materialized before them, Elena's eyes widened. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Its surface was marred by scorch marks and what appeared to be battle damage. "We're being hailed," Aiden reported, his voice tense. Elena took a deep breath. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life, revealing a being that could only be described as ethereal. It had a vaguely humanoid shape, but its body seemed to be composed of swirling, translucent energy. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in their minds. "Greetings, unknown vessel. I am Zarlian of the Luminary. We come seeking aid and sanctuary." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the shock of first contact. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We're prepared to offer assistance. What is the nature of your emergency?" The alien's form flickered, as if struggling to maintain cohesion. "We are refugees, fleeing from a terrible enemy that seeks to extinguish all sentient life in this sector of the galaxy. They are called the Void Collective, and they consume entire worlds." A chill ran down Elena's spine. "Can you elaborate on this threat? And how can we help you?" Zarlian's mental voice grew urgent. "The Void Collective is a hive mind of energy-based beings that feed on the life force of entire planets. They've already destroyed dozens of worlds in neighboring systems. Our ship's drive was damaged in our escape. Without repairs, we cannot outrun them for long." Elena exchanged glances with Aiden. This was far beyond their original mission parameters, but the implications were staggering. If what the Luminary said was true, Earth and all of humanity could be at risk. "Lieutenant Chen, assemble an engineering team to assess the Luminary vessel. Yuki, scan for any signs of pursuit," Elena ordered. She turned back to Zarlian. "We'll do what we can to help. In the meantime, I need to contact Earth Command for further instructions." As the crew bustled into action, Elena retreated to her ready room. The weight of the situation settled heavily on her shoulders. She activated the quantum entanglement communicator, establishing a secure link with Admiral Javier Rodriguez back on Earth. "Admiral, we have a situation," Elena began, her voice grave. She quickly briefed him on their encounter with the Luminary and the looming threat of the Void Collective. Admiral Rodriguez's weathered face creased with concern. "This is unprecedented, Captain. If what they say is true, we could be facing an existential threat to not just humanity, but multiple species." Elena nodded. "Sir, I believe we need to take this seriously. The Luminary ship shows clear signs of battle damage, and their distress seems genuine." The Admiral was silent for a long moment, deep in thought. Finally, he spoke. Captain Reyes, I'm giving you full autonomy to handle this situation as you see fit. Protect Earth and our colonies, but if possible, render aid to the Luminary and any other species threatened by this void collective. We'll begin mobilizing our fleet and reach out to our allies in the Proxima Centauri system. Understood, sir, Elena replied, a mix of determination and apprehension coursing through her. We'll do everything in our power to assess and counter this threat. As she ended the transmission, Aiden's voice came over the intercom. Captain to the bridge. We've detected multiple anomalies on long-range sensors. They match the Luminary's description of void collective vessels. Elena rushed back to the bridge, her mind racing. Time to intercept. Yuki's fingers flew over her console. At their current speed, approximately 18 hours, Captain. That's not much time, Elena muttered. She turned to her crew, her voice ringing with authority. All right, people, listen up. We're about to face a threat unlike anything humanity has encountered before. I need everyone at their best. Aiden, coordinate with the engineering team on the Luminary ship. See if we can get their drive operational. Yuki, I want continuous scans of those approaching vessels. Look for any weaknesses we can exploit. As her crew sprang into action, Elena felt a surge of determination. Humanity might be new to the galactic stage, but they had a long history of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. They would face this threat head-on, not just for themselves, but for all sentient life in the galaxy. Over the next several hours, the horizon became a hive of activity. The engineering team, led by Chief Engineer Dr. Samira Patel, worked tirelessly to understand and repair the Luminary's exotic technology. Meanwhile, Elena and her tactical team pored over the sensor data, trying to devise strategies to counter the approaching void collective. Captain, Samira's voice crackled over the comm, tinged with excitement. We've managed to get the Luminary drive partially operational. It won't be able to achieve FTL, but it should give them enough power to maneuver. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Excellent work, Doctor. Get your team back on board. We're running out of time. As the engineering team returned, Elena called a meeting of her senior staff. They gathered around the holographic tactical display, faces grim but determined. All right, here's what we know, Elena began. The Void Collective vessels are unlike anything we've encountered. They seem to be composed of dark energy, making them difficult to detect and potentially resistant to our conventional weapons. Aiden pointed to the display. Based on the Luminary's information and our own scans, we believe their ships create localized areas of altered spacetime. This allows them to phase through normal matter, which is how they consume the energy of entire planets. So how do we fight something we can barely detect and can't physically touch? Lieutenant Commander Marcus Wong, the tactical officer, asked, his brow furrowed. Elena leaned forward, her eyes glinting with determination. We use their nature against them. Dr. Patel, you had a theory. Samira nodded, her dark hair bobbing. Yes, Captain. If we can generate a strong enough gravitational field, we might be able to disrupt their phasing ability. I believe we can modify our shields to create such a field, but it will put an enormous strain on our power systems. Do it, Elena ordered. Marcus, work with Samura to find a way to weaponize this concept. If we can trap them, maybe we can hurt them. As the meeting dispersed, Elena felt a mix of pride and anxiety. They were about to face an enemy that had already destroyed entire civilizations, armed with hastily conceived theories and untested modifications. But it was all they had. She returned to the bridge, where Zalian's image waited on the view screen. The Luminary leader had been conferring with other refugee ships that had joined them over the past hours. Captain Reyes, Zalian's mental voice resonated with gratitude. We cannot thank you enough for your aid, but we must urge you to flee. The Void Collective is too powerful. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourselves for us. Elena stood tall, her voice firm. We appreciate your concern, Zalian, but that's not how humanity operates. We don't abandon those in need, and we don't run from a fight, especially one with such high stakes. We're staying, and we're going to do everything in our power to stop this threat. A wave of emotion emanated from Zarlian, a mix of awe, gratitude, and hope. Your courage is admirable, Captain. Perhaps together we might stand a chance. As if on cue, Yuki's console lit up with warnings. Captain, multiple Void Collective vessels dropping out of FTL. They'll be in weapons range in 2 minutes. Elena's voice rang out clear and strong. Battle stations. All hands, prepare for combat. This is not just a fight for our lives, but for the future of countless species across the galaxy. Whatever happens, I'm proud to face this threat with all of you. Let's show the universe what humanity is made of. As the crew rushed to their positions, tension thick in the air, the first wave of Void Collective ships appeared on the view screen. They were monstrous, writhing masses of dark energy that seemed to devour the very light around them. The battle for survival was about to begin, and humanity was about to face its greatest test yet. The battle begins. The void of space erupted into chaos as the first volley of energy beams lanced out from the Void Collective ships. Captain Elena Reyes gripped her command chair, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Evasive maneuvers. Yuki, keep us between those things and the refugee ships. Marcus, return fire. The horizon banked hard, narrowly avoiding the brunt of the attack. A few beams grazed the shields, causing the ship to shudder. Shields holding at 92%, Captain Aiden reported, his fingers dancing across his console. But those weren't just energy weapons. Sensors show they're trying to create micro-singularities to tear us apart. Elena's mind raced. The Void Collective's technology was beyond anything they had prepared for. Dr. Patel, status on the shield modifications. Samara's voice crackled over the comm, strained but determined. Almost there, Captain. We need another 2 minutes. We may not have 2 minutes, Elena muttered. Marcus, target the lead ship. Full spread of quantum torpedoes. The horizon shuddered as it launched its most powerful weapons. The torpedoes streaked towards the massive Void Collective vessel, leaving trails of distorted spacetime in their wake. They impacted in a spectacular explosion of light and energy, but when the glare faded, the enemy ship remained unscathed. No effect, Marcus reported, his voice tight with frustration. It's like they just phased right through the explosions. Elena clenched her fist. Their most powerful weapons were useless. Helm, keep us moving. We need to buy more time. The horizon weaved through the barrage of enemy fire, its advanced maneuverability keeping it just ahead of destruction. But Elena knew they couldn't keep this up forever. They needed a game-changer. Suddenly, Samara's excited voice burst over the comm. Captain, modifications complete. Activating gravitic shield now. A loud hum reverberated through the ship as the new shield came online. The view screen showed a shimmer of distorted space surrounding the horizon. Void ships approaching, Captain, Yuki called out. 3 of them on an intercept course. Helena leaned forward, her heart pounding. This was the moment of truth. Hold position. Let them come to us. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the writhing, darkness-shrouded forms of the void ships drew closer. They seemed to stretch and distort as they entered the horizon's gravitic field. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Energy spike, Yuki shouted. They're trying to phase through our shields. But instead of passing through, the void ships seemed to struggle, their forms twisting and contorting as they hit the gravitic barrier. It's working, Aiden exclaimed. They can't phase through. Elena allowed herself a moment of triumph before snapping back into action. Marcus, fire everything we've got. Aim for the points where they're contorting. The horizon's weapons blazed to life, pouring energy into the trapped void ships. This time, the effects were devastating. Unable to phase, the enemy vessels writhed in apparent agony as the barrage tore into them. Within moments, they collapsed in on themselves, imploding into pinpoints of intense darkness before dissipating entirely. A cheer went up across the bridge, but Elena quickly tempered it. "Good work, everyone, but this battle's far from over. Yuki, what's the status of the rest of the Void Fleet?" Yuki's expression was grim as she studied her readings. "They're regrouping, Captain. I think they're adapting their tactics. And there's something else. I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in their flagship." Before Elena could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. A colossal beam of dark energy erupted from the Void flagship, cutting through the vacuum like a scythe. It missed the horizon by a hair's breadth, but the gravitational distortions in its wake sent the ship tumbling. "Stabilizers offline," Aiden shouted over the blare of alarms. "We're sitting ducks." Elena gritted her teeth. They had won the first round, but the Void Collective was showing why they were so feared. "Samura, we need those stabilizers back online now. Aiden, divert all non-essential power to the gravitic shields." As the crew scrambled to regain control of the ship, Elena's mind raced. They had found a way to hurt the Void ships, but at this rate, they would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers and firepower. They needed help. Almost in answer to her thoughts, new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. Elena's heart leaped as she recognized the signatures of Earth's allies from Proxima Centauri, the Proxians. The comm crackled to life, and a deep, resonant voice filled the bridge. "This is High Commander Zexara of the Proxian Defense Force. We received your distress call, Earth allies. The Proxian fleet stands ready to assist." A fierce grin spread across Elena's face. "Commander Zexara, your timing is impeccable. We found a way to hurt these bastards, but we're outnumbered. Think you can even the odds a bit?" "With pleasure, Captain Reyes," Zexara rumbled. "Proxian fleet, engage the enemy." The space around them lit up as dozens of Proxian warships dropped out of FTL, their sleek bioorganic hulls gleaming. They immediately opened fire on the Void Fleet, their energy weapons lancing through space. Elena quickly transmitted the specifications for the gravitic shields to the Proxian ships. "Commander, have your ships modify their shields with these specs. It's the key to defeating the Void ships." As the Proxians acknowledged and began implementing the modifications, the tide of battle started to turn. The combined Earth-Proxian fleet, now able to damage the Void ships, began to push them back. But the Void Collective was far from defeated. Their flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Proxian vessels, began to pulse with ominous energy. "Captain," Yuki called out, her voice tight with alarm. "I'm detecting a massive gravitational anomaly forming around the Void flagship. It's like they're creating their own black hole." Elena's blood ran cold. If the Void Collective could weaponize a black hole, they could destroy everything in the system. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Void flagship. We have to stop whatever they're doing." The combined fleet turned its firepower on the massive Void ship, pouring enough energy into it to vaporize a small moon. But the gravitic distortions around it were growing stronger, deflecting or absorbing much of the assault. "It's not enough," Aiden said, his voice hushed with dread. "We can't penetrate their defenses." Elena's mind raced. There had to be a way. Her eyes darted to the redouts of the Horizon systems, and suddenly, an idea struck her. A crazy, potentially suicidal idea, but possibly their only chance. "Samira," she called over the comm, "our quantum drive. Could we use it to generate a controlled singularity?" There was a moment of stunned silence before Samura replied. "Theoretically, yes. But Captain, the risks are less than the risk of doing nothing," Elena finished. "How fast can you rig it?" 10 minutes, maybe less," Samura replied, determination replacing hesitation in her voice. "You have 5, Elena said. "Aiden, set a collision course for the Void flagship. Marcus, pour everything we have into our forward shields." The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as the crew raced to implement Elena's desperate plan. The Horizon surged forward, weathering a storm of fire from the void ships as it charged towards their flagship. Samura status. Elena demanded as the massive form of the void flagship loomed ever larger on the view screen. Ready, Captain. Samura's voice was strained but triumphant. But we'll only get one shot at this. Once we initiate the drive collapse, we'll have seconds to get clear before we're torn apart. Elena nodded grimly. Understood. All hands, prepare for emergency warp on my mark. She opened a channel to the Allied fleet. All ships, clear the area around the void flagship. We're about to do something really stupid. The Horizon plunged towards the heart of the enemy fleet, its shields flaring brilliantly as they absorbed hit after hit. They were so close now that the void flagship filled the entire view screen, its surface a churning maelstrom of dark energy. Now, Samura, initiate drive collapse. The ship shuddered violently as its quantum drive began to implode, generating a singularity at the heart of the Horizon. Alarms blared as the fabric of space-time began to warp around them. Singularity formed, Samura shouted. We have 2 seconds before total collapse. All power to engines, Elena roared. Emergency warp, now. The Horizon's warp engines flared to life, catapulting the ship away from the void flagship just as the artificial singularity reached critical mass. For a moment, it seemed as if time itself held its breath. Then, with a silent flash that seemed to bend light itself, the singularity exploded. The void flagship, caught at the epicenter, was torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. The gravitational shockwave rippled outward, catching the surrounding void ships and crushing them like paper. As the Horizon tumbled out of warp, battered but intact, Elena stared at the view screen in awe. Where the heart of the void fleet had been, there was now nothing but a slowly dissipating cloud of exotic particles. Status report, she managed, her voice hoarse. Aiden looked up from his console, a mix of disbelief and elation on his face. We did it, Captain. The void flagship is destroyed, and their fleet is in disarray. The combined Earth-Proxian fleet is mopping up the remaining ships. A cheer went up across the bridge, and Elena allowed herself a moment of relief. But as she looked out at the stars, she knew this was only the beginning. They had won a crucial battle, but the war against the Void Collective was far from over. As if reading her thoughts, a transmission came through from Admiral Rodriguez. Exceptional work, Captain Reyes. You've given humanity and our allies a fighting chance. But our long-range sensors show more Void fleets mobilizing. This was just the first wave. Elena straightened in her chair, her resolve hardening. They had proved that the Void Collective could be fought, could be beaten. Now they needed to take the fight to them. Understood, Admiral, she replied. The Horizon stands ready. What are your orders? As she awaited the Admiral's response, Elena looked around at her crew, battered, exhausted, but unbowed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that humanity, together with their new allies, would face them head-on. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun. Turning the tide. The following weeks were a blur of frantic activity for Captain Elena Reyes and the crew of the UES Horizon. Their victory against the first wave of the Void Collective had bought them precious time, but the threat loomed larger than ever. Elena stood in the war room aboard the Horizon, surrounded by holographic displays showing the movements of both Allied and enemy fleets. Admiral Rodriguez's weathered face looked out from the main screen, his expression grave. The situation is dire, Captain, the Admiral began. We've managed to evacuate most of our outer colonies, but the Void Collective's advance continues. They've already consumed 3 star systems in the past month alone. Elena nodded grimly. What about our allies, sir? The Proxians, the Luminari. The Proxians are fully committed to the war effort, Rodriguez replied. Their bioorganic ships have proven remarkably adaptable to our gravitic shield technology. The Luminari are providing invaluable intelligence, but their numbers are few. We've also made contact with several other species fleeing the Void's advance. They're willing to fight, but most of their military capabilities have been decimated. We're still outnumbered and outgunned, Elena stated, voicing the thought that hung heavy in the air. Yes, the Admiral agreed. But thanks to you and your crew, we now know they can be hurt. Dr. Patel's gravitic shield technology has been a game changer. We're retrofitting every ship we can with it, but it's a race against time. Elena's mind raced, analyzing the tactical displays around her. Admiral, I've been studying the data from our engagements with the Void ships. There's something that doesn't add up. Their tactics, they're too uniform, too predictable for a species as advanced as they are. Rodriguez leaned forward, intrigued. Go on, Captain. I think we're dealing with some kind of hive mind, Elena continued. Their ships act in perfect coordination, but they lack adaptability. Once we find a way to hurt them, they struggle to develop countermeasures. Are you suggesting there might be a central intelligence controlling the entire collective? Rodriguez asked, his eyes widening at the implication. Elena nodded. Exactly, sir. And if we can find it, we might be able to cripple their entire force in one stroke, the Admiral finished, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. It's a long shot, Captain, but it might be our only chance. I'm giving you full authority to pursue this theory. Assemble whatever resources and personnel you need. Thank you, sir, Elena replied, her mind already formulating plans. I'll keep you updated on our progress. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her assembled senior staff. All right, people, you heard the Admiral. We need to find the needle in this galactic haystack. Aiden, I want you to work with our Luminary allies. Comb through every piece of data we have on Void ship movements. Look for patterns, anything that might hint at a central command structure. Aiden nodded, determination etched on his face. On it, Captain. Samara, Elena continued, turning to her chief engineer. I need you to dive deeper into the Void's technology. If they're operating as a hive mind, there must be some form of communication between the ships and their central intelligence. Find it. I'll get right on it, Samara replied, her mind already buzzing with possibilities. The rest of you, support them in any way you can. This is our shot at ending this war before it consumes the entire galaxy. Let's make it count. As the crew dispersed, Elena felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They were embarking on a desperate gamble, but it was the best chance they had. Over the next several days, the horizon became a hive of activity. Aiden and a team of analysts pored over star charts and battle reports, looking for any hint of a pattern in the Void Collective's movements. Samara and her engineering team worked around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data they had on Void technology. On the fourth day, Hayden burst onto the bridge, his eyes wide with excitement. Captain, I think we found something. Elena leaned forward in her chair. What is it, Aiden? He pulled up a holographic display of the galaxy, overlaid with the paths of various Void fleets. We've been looking at their movements all wrong. We assumed they were expanding outward in all directions, but look at this. Aiden manipulated the display, and suddenly a pattern emerged. The Void fleets weren't moving randomly. Their paths formed a complex, spiraling pattern that converged on a single point deep in uncharted space. It's like they're being pulled towards something, Elena murmured, her mind racing. As if on cue, Samara's voice came over the comm. Captain, you need to see this. I've isolated a strange subspace frequency in the background noise of all our Void ship encounters. It's incredibly weak, but it's consistent. Could it be some kind of control signal? Elena asked, the pieces starting to fall into place. It's possible, Samara replied. If I'm right, it's using quantum entanglement to communicate instantaneously across vast distances. That would explain how they coordinate so effectively. Elena's heart raced. This was it, the break they'd been looking for. Samara, can you trace that signal? There was a pause before Samara responded, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. With the right equipment, yes. But Captain, the source is going to be incredibly well hidden and defended. Then we'll just have to be smarter, Elena said, a fierce grin spreading across her face. She opened a channel to Admiral Rodriguez, quickly briefing him on their discoveries. The Admiral's response was immediate. "This is the best lead we've had, Captain. I'm authorizing a stealth mission deep into void-controlled space. The Horizon will lead a small task force to locate and neutralize its central intelligence. Meanwhile, we'll launch a major offensive to keep the bulk of the Void fleet occupied." "Understood, sir," Elena replied. "We won't let you down." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. The Horizon was equipped with the latest in stealth technology, its hull coated with exotic materials that absorbed virtually all electromagnetic radiation. A small fleet of similarly equipped ships was assembled, a mix of human, Proxian, and even a few restored luminary vessels. As they prepared to depart, Elena addressed her crew and the leaders of the Allied ships. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're going to strike at the very heart of an enemy that has destroyed entire civilizations. The risks are enormous, but the stakes are even higher. If we fail, there may be nothing left to stop the Void from consuming everything we know and love." She paused, looking at each face in turn. "But we will not fail, because we carry with us the hopes and dreams of countless beings across the galaxy. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all life, for the very future of our universe. Now, let's go make history." A cheer went up across the assembled crews. As Elena returned to the Horizon's bridge, she felt a surge of determination. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The journey into the heart of void-controlled space was tense. They traveled in short, carefully calculated FTL jumps, using the gravitational wells of dead stars and black holes to mask their movements. More than once, they had to power down completely and drift silently as void patrols passed terrifyingly close. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they arrived at the coordinates Aiden and Samira had calculated. Before them loomed a massive structure unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a spherical lattice of dark energy, stretching several astronomical units in diameter. At its center pulsed a core of such intense darkness that it seemed to devour light itself. "By all that's holy," Aiden whispered, staring at the readings. "The mass readings. Captain, I think that's a neutron star in there. They've somehow contained and harnessed it." Elena's mind reeled at the implications. The power required to contain a neutron star was beyond imagining. This had to be the source of the Void Collective's incredible abilities. "Samara," she called over the comm, "tell me you have a plan to take that thing down." There was a moment of tense silence before Samara replied, "I think I do, Captain, but you're not going to like it." As Samara outlined her plan, Elena felt a chill run down her spine. It was audacious, borderline suicidal, and their only chance of success. "We'll have to modify our quantum drive again," Samara explained. "But this time, instead of creating a singularity, we're going to design it to resonate with the frequency of the Void's control signal. If we can get close enough to that core, we might be able to disrupt the containment field around the neutron star." "And if we succeed?" Elena asked, already guessing the answer. "Best case scenario. We trigger a cascading failure that collapses their entire network. Worst case, well, let's just say we probably won't be around to worry about it." Elena took a deep breath, weighing their options. There were none. This was their only shot. "Do it," she ordered. "How long?" "An hour, maybe less," Samara replied. "But Captain, there's one more thing. Someone will have to stay behind to manually initiate the drive collapse. The radiation levels will be unsurvivable." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke softly. "I'll do it. I'll stay behind." Protests immediately erupted from her crew, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. "This is not up for debate. I'm ordering the rest of you to evacuate to the other ships once the modifications are complete. That's final." As the crew reluctantly set about their tasks, Elena opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. "All ships, prepare for our final assault. On my mark, we'll drop our stealth fields and hit that structure with everything we've got. Draw their defenses, give the Horizon the opening it needs." The next hour passed in a blur of frantic activity. As Samura worked on the drive modifications, the rest of the crew prepared for evacuation. Elena recorded a final message for Earth, explaining their plan and saying her goodbyes. Finally, it was time. Elena stood alone on the bridge of the Horizon, watching as the last of her crew reluctantly transported to the other ships. Her hand hovered over the control that would drop their stealth field and begin their desperate attack. "Good luck, Captain." Aiden's voice came over the comm, thick with emotion. "It's been an honor serving with you." Elena smiled sadly. "The honor was all mine, my friend. Now go make sure our sacrifice isn't in vain. Humanity is counting on you." With a deep breath, Elena pressed the control. The Horizon's stealth field fell, and chaos erupted. The Allied fleet unleashed a barrage of fire unlike anything seen before in the history of space combat. The Void structure's defenses sprang to life, tendrils of dark energy lashing out at the attacking ships. Elena piloted the Horizon through the maelstrom, pushing the ship to its limits as she dove toward the pulsing core. Void ships materialized around her, their weapons tearing into the Horizon's hull. But Elena didn't flinch, her eyes fixed on her target. As she neared the core, Elena felt an oppressive psychic presence pressing against her mind. The central intelligence of the Void Collective, she realized. It was aware of them, aware of their plan. "Sorry," Elena gritted out through clenched teeth, "but humanity doesn't go down without a fight." With a final burst of speed, the Horizon plunged into the swirling maelstrom of dark energy surrounding the core. Alarms blared as the ship's systems began to fail under the immense gravitational stresses. Elena's hand hovered over the drive collapse initiation. In that moment, her life flashed before her eyes, her childhood on Earth, her years of training, the friends and family she was leaving behind. But strongest of all was the image of the galaxy, teeming with life and possibility, facing extinction at the hands of the Void. "Not on my watch," Elena whispered, and pressed the button. The Horizon's quantum drive began to collapse, resonating with the Void's control frequency. The dark energy lattice around them began to waver and distort. Elena felt the ship breaking apart around her, but she held on, her eyes fixed on the readings. Just as her world dissolved into blinding light and searing pain, Elena saw it, the containment field collapsing, the neutron star beginning to tear free. Her last thought was a fierce, triumphant joy. Across the galaxy, Void ships suddenly fell silent, their dark energy dissipating into nothingness. On 1,000 worlds, beings of all species looked up at the sky in wonder as the shadows that had threatened to consume them vanished. Aboard the Proxyn flagship, Aiden Chen stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. Where the Void structure had been, there was now only a rapidly expanding nebula of exotic particles. And at its heart, pulsing with newfound freedom, a neutron star spun in the Void. As cheers erupted around him, Aiden felt a mix of grief and pride. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved the galaxy. And though the cost had been high, he knew that Elena's sacrifice would be remembered for generations to come. In the years that followed, as the galaxy began to rebuild, the story of the UES Horizon and its brave captain became legend. Humanity, once newcomers to the galactic stage, now stood as respected leaders in a new era of interstellar cooperation. And out in the depths of space, a new nebula shone brightly, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who had given everything to ensure that life, in all its wondrous diversity, would continue to thrive among the stars.